women's football is in the mix. I want to talk about what's been trending since the start of today. But of course, even days before now, I mean, there's been talks about uncertainty surrounding the 2026 African Women's Cup of Nations. Now, the Confederation of African Football, CAF, has officially rescheduled the 2026 Women's African Cup of Nations, WAFCON, moving the tournament from its original March-April window to July 24th through August 16th, 2026, amid lingering concerns about preparations and organization. Now, CAF said the decision followed consultations with FIFA and other stakeholders to ensure the successful staging of Africa's flagship women's football competition. Now, the tournament had initially been scheduled to take place, of course, between March 17th to April 3rd in Morocco. And while Morocco was awarded the hosting rights in October 2024, and preparations are said to be ongoing, uncertainty still persists after CAF's latest announcement did not clearly reaffirm the host nation. Now, the change in date also places the tournament shortly after the 2026 FIFA Men's World Cup in US, Canada, and Mexico. And the scheduling shift comes amid speculation over Morocco's readiness, with South Africa reportedly indicating interest in stepping in should the North African nation be unable to host. All right, joining us tonight in this conversation is a women's football expert and also a journalist in Nigeria. Talking about Suo Chapelle Chief Suo Chapelle joins us this evening. Chapelle, Suo, I used to call you. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining us.
Great to be here. Happy Women's Month and Happy New Year, Wale. I like that you're still repping our Ogili Rovers. What a time to be here. What a time.
All right. I mean, also know that an administrator and, of course, a journalist, veteran sports journalist who is now a football administrator, also the chairperson of the Nigerian Football Federation Women's Football Committee, Aisha Falode, joins us this night. Aisha, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Favor. How are you, Olawale?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Well, good. Let's get straight to business. I'll start with Madam Aisha Falode. I mean, the news did not come to many as a surprise. Some persons have hinted already that it might be postponed. But let's look at the Nigerian angle. How does Nigeria plan to adjust its preparation schedule, knowing fully well that before now there were plans for the ladies to travel all the way from Cameroon to Morocco for preparations? What are the plans in response to the rescheduling for our players and, officials?
Well, it's quite unfortunate that this has happened, that CAF has just 2 days to teams opening their training camps in Morocco came up with this postponement, even though the indications have been there immediately after the AFCON that there might have been some kind of readjustment to the schedule and the calendar of the Women's Nations Cup. Now, CAF had a long time to have rescheduled if it was compelling for them to have your number one women's football competition or tournament, your number one profile of the women's game. The WAFCON is as big as they come. And to know that this is a WAFCON that is a World Cup qualifying WAFCON, a WAFCON that has been expanded for all the good things that CAF has done to women's football or done with women's football in the last couple of years, increasing the prize money, increasing the eyeballs, the broadcast rights, and everything. The followership has grown. The momentum was really high for this WAFCON. To have all of these disappointments, it just takes us several steps backwards, to where we started from. The indications were there that Morocco was not going to be, for some reason, I think Morocco thought that they were not protected well enough by the CAF judicial body and the disciplinary committee after the debacle of the AFCON final versus Senegal. Remember, they had told us that they would need more time to prepare for the WAFCON immediately after the AFCON, even though they had been given the hosting rights since last year. So if the indications were there that you were going to host the AFCON, you were going to host the WAFCON, and the dates, they don't come as a surprise. It is worrisome to see that Morocco has taken the stance and that CAF has also, given Morocco this kind of self-entitlement to do with Africa's #1 women's competition as they want.
All right, before I come to Suo, I will go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. I don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're still watching Game On News Central TV. We're being joined by two wonderful women. First off, Suo Chapelle and, of course, Aisha Falode, talking about the scheduling of the Women's African Cup of Nations. Let me come to Suo now. Suo, let's look at the impact of this. I mean, for you as a journalist, we know that journalists were also left in the dark, knowing fully well that accreditations did not even come out, no words about that. I'm also looking at, women's football in general. Some are saying of the opinion that CAF is not treating the women's game as the men's game. When you look at what even happened last year compared to the AFCON late December, what do you think is the impact of this postponement of the Women's African Cup of Nations?
I'll say that for a tournament that, for the most part, we've always had a lot of challenges. You have to go up the hill to get the basic things that the guys will get, whether it's for sponsorship. I mean, we're at the AFCON or we're at the WAFCON, and they called us in Rabat to go for sponsorship announcement for the AFCON that was 6 months away. But for the women, we had nothing like that. There was fan packs and all those entertainment and every other thing in between. But even without these structures, the women's tournament has been rising, whether it's the one in Africa or the Euros that was the most viewed in the UK for all sports events, or the one from the one that just finished last year for the WAFCON that was the most viewed yet. And it was even bigger. The impact, in fact, from reports that came out from broadcast rights and where it was streamed, this has been the most impactful. We even had more views than Asian Cup for the men. That's saying a big deal. That's a big deal. And then you treat the tournament like it's any man's business. For the past 2 weeks, journalists from East Africa, North Africa, and Southern Africa, we have been having conversations as to where the teams would stand and what was possible. I think the only positive out of this whole Olobalu is the fact that, for one, it was not cancelled entirely, like it was done during the COVID era, where the men's zone was postponed and the ladies had their own entirely swiped out, and they had to do selection process for the next intercontinental representatives from Africa. Bear in mind, like Madam Aisha said, that this particular tournament is supposed to sieve out at least 4 African names and 2 that could take our continental ticket and go for the playoffs and rep us in an expanded format for the World Cup, holding in Brazil. So for me, the only good part is we are still doing it. The bad part is, where do we stand? You want eyeballs on it, and you are seeing a World Cup that's just about finishing before we start the WAFCON, and then a few days after, some of the players who are going to be playing not just for Nigeria, cross board, have to bundle themselves and run to Commonwealth and run to Europe to go and play. That's being unfair. You can understand why players like Rinsola would say this is frustrating. Why players like Desire Okpara would say, legends like her would say this is 10 steps backward. The only advantage I would say for teams like Nigeria that didn't have proper preparation process is this. They have one international window left after now. It's in June. Don't forget that they never played any game until that 1-0 that Cameroon gave them in Yaoundé before they bounced back a couple of days ago with the 3-1. So what I want to see is proactiveness. Just like federations like Kenya, they've already rolled out their officialese. Oh, we are sad this didn't happen, but this is what we are doing. I've not seen any official lineup from countries like Nigeria, and they are the defending champions. They have 4 more months to book these girls good sponsorship, a good tour. After all, they are defending champions, and a fantastic window for them to play. Even if it's the Wafubi tourney that they had to cancel, they have the chance to play it now and keep themselves match ready. Because anything is possible. I mean, Namibia is now the new COSAFA champion. They beat Malawi. Malawi beat South Africa. So that should tell you that the zeitgeist is changing. New powerhouses are rising. So this small window the women are expected to do what the women would normally do. They will take a little and they will pound that small banga and give you banga rice and banga soup and everything in between out of it.
All right. Wale?
Yeah, I've got a quick question for Madam Aisha Falode, and yeah, it's just a bit of a digression from the WAFCON rescheduling, but still concerns the Super Falcons. When Justin Madugu named that 25-man squad for the two-pronged friendlies against Cameroon, I noticed that we had only 2 home-based players in there, and that was Andelin Ngbechi and I think Fatima Oloko, who were both goalkeepers. I mean, not even outfield players. And I wanted to ask what she thinks about, someone who is a top dog in the NWFL. What have you made of the representation of the NWFL in the Super Falcons? We're heading into a tournament that has been scheduled, obviously, but all outfield players are based abroad. And even the goalkeepers who have made the squad, I'm not sure any one of them is going to be first choice. What have you made of it? How can we continue to ensure that our local managers are also looking from within to definitely beef up the national team for big tournaments like this?
Let me just make a correction that I think we should, as Nigerians, stop putting, segregating Nigerians when it comes to representation in the national teams. Nigerians abroad, Nigerians at home are Nigerians. You want the best to play for the national teams. There was a time in the national team that you had like 9, 8 players from the NWFL. I remember in 2019 in France, we had quite a large number of players from the NWFL who made that team, and they were not there as substitutes. They played as the first team. Same thing when we went to Australia. You had quite a number of home-based players in that squad. So you want the best for the national teams. If the best are Nigerians from abroad, by all means. If you can find some good ones who are good enough from the home team, let's also encourage them. But we want the best. Be that as it may, let's return our focus now to the WAFCON. Nigeria was making preparation. In point of fact, we were already scouting, even before the tournament, the friendly in Cameroon, for a training site in Morocco, a training site that will serve as both for friendlies and also accommodation, because we didn't want a repeat of what happened in 2025 to repeat itself, where one of our players had to tweet about that accommodation that was given to teams. We wanted to avoid that. When friendlies are played, FIFA windows, some teams, just like you had disappointments, even with the scheduling of this WAFCON now, some teams will pull out at the last minute. Even for this, we had to work extra hard and make some contingency plan to have Cameroon play us in this FIFA window, because the WAF would be 4-nation tournament that was organized for this particular window. Some teams pulled out last minute. Either they didn't want to play Nigeria, who are defending champions before the WAFCON, or that suddenly they have now an invitation from other competition, FIFA window friendlies organized from outside of our confederation. So in such a case, it's difficult for you to make plan B, because you never expect that teams will be pulling out at the last minute. So we must begin to understand some reasons why the NFF will do certain things, or certain things may appear as as people not getting the real facts of the matter before coming to judgment against the NFF. Okay, now this WAFCON has been postponed. While some people are commending why it is advantageous to some people have already, spent money. So I've told you we have gone on a scouting. It cost us money to do that, to make some kind of adjustment to the hotel accommodation in case we are envisaging that we may also still have the same problem. We flew out of 23 players that came for the Cameroon friendly. Quite a sizable number of them were from the diaspora, from the United States, from Mexico, from China, from Europe, and then from Nigeria. That cost money, and it was all intended, whether this WAFCON held or not. It was still part of the friendly games. Some teams are today stranded in where there's been some kind of disruption to peace in the UAE. That is a cost. Some are already on their way to Morocco. So we are saying that, look, tournaments can be postponed because nobody envisaged that Morocco will say they are not ready. So I also now will put some blame at the doorstep of CAF. If you tell me you have issued a statement today, the statement is as vague as they come. You have not confirmed or denied whether Morocco will still be the host of this competition if it holds in January. You have told us that for unforeseen circumstances. What are those unforeseen circumstances? We had a minister, a deputy minister of sports in South Africa, told us, I think it was in February or January, that South Africa was ready to host the tournament, which means that there's been some indications that Morocco may not still hold this tournament when July comes. We had a tournament that is inconsistent in dates now, and how do you grow with that? It's not only the women's football, it's also happening to the men. Every year now we play AFCON. And yet we quarrel when Europe or any other confederation don't release players for African tournaments. That's because we are not consistent with our scheduling. Before now, we knew when the WAFCON was going to hold, when it was AWC, when it was AFCON, when it was, now became WAFCON. It was always every 2 years and between November and December. So when did we now become, how did we get to this stage of not knowing when our number one, our premium tournaments will host, where we just get up and say we are not hosting? It calls on Africa and African leadership to sit up. We used to host this WAFCON every other year. Between us and South Africa, we held it the most number of times. We didn't lord it over anybody. If Morocco is feeling that it is becoming too overwhelming for them to be hosting Africa, by all means, we should start looking at other countries who have facilities that can host us. And it is also a challenge to the government in Africa to start developing facilities and infrastructure for the African youth to host their tournaments.
All right, Madam Aisha Falode, I must let you go now. You've talked on, different angle in terms of from the aspect of CAF and in terms of organization and what they've put in place. We just hope that there'll be plans to maybe compensate federations, those that have put out plans ahead of June, July. But we'll still be back with Suo after this break. Thank you very much for joining me. Welcome back. You're still watching Game On News Central TV. I'm Favor Ito. I have Olawale Adigun in the studio. And Suo is still with us. Suo, before we let you go, I would like to ask, in your opinion, what does CAF need to do to restore the confidence in them in terms of organization, especially tournaments like the Women's Africa Cup of Nations?
Gap, you see, we don't want to be getting information from multiple sources. A few days ago, it was Lekpip that already announced that it was going to be postponed. A few days ago, a few friends from East African federations had already told me they were pulling out and they were already cancelling their plans to be in France in preparation. A couple of weeks back, from my findings, we had already learned that it seemed like it was the South Africans that were ready to host with 4 match centers available. And then the deputy minister had to speak up when she was not, I think, due to, and their bosses in South Africa, Oga Jordan and the rest had to shift back, and they started playing politics with our women's football. They already knew that they were not going to do it. Investigations went by the time we left Morocco at the latter part of January into the beginning part of February. There was no support from the local committee. When there's a tournament going on, we already know how the behavior is like. There was no logistics support, no facility support. There was nothing. This is probably why the Minister for Sports in South Africa yesterday, his video was trending online, Mr. Mackenzie, who was speaking on the fact that if you want to embarrass the South African CAF president, then not on my watch. We are ready to do it. Like Madam Aisha rightly said, it would be nice for us to start stating the who, the where, the what, the why, and the when, so that we know that this is what is for us. And I say this because it was just 2 months ago, 1.5, what is it, over? Yeah, 1.5 billion euros, they said, according to them, they spent, or they gained rather, from people coming to the tournament. Tourists spent over 190% of spends, and they had thousands of people trooping in, even without the publicity. The WAFCON last year had over 20 to 30,000 people. So it's not economics that is making them say unforeseen circumstances. When you want to put your foot around women's football and you want to play it for jokes, know that the world is watching now. Everybody has calculator, everybody's seeing. We know the value. So if you're not stepping up, that means that you are using politics to kill a game and a sport that's bigger than you. So if you're not ready for it, step aside so others can move, because I believe Africa and Africans in diaspora especially are ready to come and celebrate. Sports is the only thing that brings the continent together now. So in a time that has a lot of wars, this is what we want, sports to unite us. So I feel like moving forward, they have to state what they're about and stop leaving communication gap.
All right.
That's what we need.
All right. Thank you so much, Suo Chapelle, for your quality time. Look forward to you joining us again on the show, and an exciting times ahead in women's football. Thank you very much.